Good evening. My name is Steve Nowicki. I'm Dean and Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education here at Duke University, and I want to welcome you to this live webcast with current Duke parents that we have designed to provide the parents of prospective Duke students with some insights into what the Duke student experience is. The idea here is that as parents, you're very curious about what life will be at Duke. And we think that the best way for you to get insight into that is to talk to parents of Duke students. We have here tonight three parents. Jim Fleming, whose daughter Rachel is a Pratt student graduating this year, but also had a son Brian who graduated in 2009, also a Pratt student. Carolyn Rhodes, whose son Derek is a Trinity student. And Judy de Obaldia, whose daughter Christy is now a junior, and whose daughter Lisa graduated in 2007. So we really have some experts here to help you with your question. The idea here is that you're tweeting and emailing and Facebooking and doing all that social media stuff here, and I'm going to read your questions and get our experts to try to give you some answers. So here's the first question. When, if ever, did your child's typical class size get down below 20? Sophomore year, junior year? How dominant? Well, let's start with that. There's a second part to this question. So tell us about class size. Let's start with you, Jim.
Well, I would say they got those class sizes in the first year. They do have larger classes. Both my students were in the engineering program, and in the fundamentals course was larger in class size, but then the breakout sessions were generally less than 20 students for them. So I would say they got smaller class sizes right away in the program.
Carolyn, what's your experience?
Yeah, I would agree with Jim. I do think that in the beginning there was a larger class size, and during those breakout sessions, they did tend to be a little smaller. So.
Judy, do you want to weigh in on this?
Well, my daughter, who majored in biology, did have some larger classes, especially in the beginning with things like some of the biology and chemistry courses, but went on later to do even individual research projects in later year.
The median class size at Duke actually is under 20, as it turns out. Now, it's true in the sciences. There are some larger classes in that introductory stage, but we pride ourselves on small classes. So actually, here's a follow-on question which relates to this, and I don't know, we didn't discuss earlier if this is the case, but we have this focus program here at Duke, which is targeted at first-year, first-semester students. Did any of your kids do the focus program?
Derek, my child did not do the focus program. However, I do know about it, and I have heard some students that have been a part of the focus program and really enjoyed it, and got a sense of some other students who they could interact with throughout the school year.
Yeah.
So very community driven.
So, so we don't have experts on focus here. I'll say for the prospective parent who wrote that question in, feel free to email me at snowicki@duke.edu, because I actually teach in the focus program. And it's a fabulous opportunity for a subset of our students to really get into small classes around a theme with some of our senior professors. And I have to say it is some of the most fun teaching I have done in my 23 years at Duke.
Well, it also gives them a chance to get that small class and discussion type of format going early. I understand that also in the focus they live together, but their roommates are not in focus, so it gives them that core of students that they know immediately, but then they can expand out because they have a roommate who's not in the program. So it does give them a sense of a group of individuals who are like-minded, and it really gets them started in the atmosphere here of the
That's true.
academics.
The focus programs have a broader spread because they don't all live just with each other, and so there's sort of a connection that develops in those first-year residence halls. So here's a question that I'm sure all of you would have an opinion on. What should my incoming student be doing now to be getting ready for his freshman year at Duke? Judy, you want to start with that? You've had a couple of kids go to Duke. What should they be doing a few months before they might actually show up?
Okay, well, I guess we could talk about academic preparation. I think that one of the reasons we were so interested in Duke University is the level of academic achievement that's here. And that does have take some effort, but it also brings great rewards. So I think it's good to have your good time management and study skills, and know that you will be coming to a challenging academic environment.
Carolyn, do you have any advice?
Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely say time management, and have as many materials as you possibly can, because it is academically challenged. Also, I would just say to just not be stressed out, just to take it calm and easy, because everyone is new, everyone is, you know, have the jitters just like everybody else. And I would just say to calm down. You will meet new people. There will be people on campus waiting to be of assistance to you. So I would just say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would echo that, because there are a number of things that you're involved with right now. You should certainly experience those and take advantage of that opportunity. Get your decisions in. That will be off your plate, and you'll have that freedom to do it. And I would also take the time as a family to talk to your student. And listen to them. Listen to what they're interested in, the things that they might have some trepidation about, the things that they might be looking forward to. It might be a good time to reinforce family values or morals and ethics the way you've brought them up. But as far as preparation, Duke wouldn't have accepted them if they didn't think they could do it already. So that preparation is done. So I think I would dwell more on the social aspects and the family and those kinds of things.
I would also like to add, it just kind of came to mind, that both of my students who have been here at Duke have always stressed to me that it's an environment of cooperation among students, and they valued that very much. They felt that their peers were here to cooperate with one another. They didn't feel it kind of like a cutthroat type of environment, even as successful academically as it is.
That's really a good point. Caroline pointed out, you know, when you come as a first-year student to Duke, the car drives up, it's filled with all the stuff, and it is swarmed with these students, the first-year advisory counselors, they're called, who will carry everything up to the room, and parents are just so relieved because
Yes.
they don't have to carry all
Yes.
that stuff up.
Yes.
So let's get to housing. There's some questions on housing. And, you know, this is a real important issue for families to sort of make a transition. Their student is leaving home. They're going to be in a dormitory. You know, what is that like? Here's a general question that came in, which is, did any of your children have issues with housing? And you can be honest here, you know, problems with roommates or problems with, you know, where they ended up, either as a first-year student, which is the big transition, or as they moved on.
I mean, my student didn't, I believe that he thought that he was going to be in a different dorm, and turned out he was at another dorm. But needless to say, he still had a good experience at that dorm. He loved his RA. He loved the people that were in the dorm. And I believe next year he will get into another dorm that he likes. So I think everything just kind of worked out in the end, but I haven't had any problems with housing.
Yeah, one of the things you probably know but should be reinforced is all the freshmen live together on what's called East Campus. And that's a time for them. They actually grow together as a class. One of the things that they will do when they get in living arrangements on West Campus as they get in older students is they will automatically know who's in their class. So they get that spirit of identity, if you will, as a freshman. And all of these guys and young ladies are going through very similar things in that very safe environment. And there are RAs on the floor. And so everyone's in it, they're all in it new together. So it's actually a time of growing together without having the influence of the upperclassmen, both the good and maybe not so good influences, but in the on the campus, on East Campus. Now, they will be taking courses on West Campus, that they will have interactions with the upperclassmen, but in the living arrangement and those types of situations, they will be on East Campus with fellow freshmen. The question about roommate situation, both my students did the lottery, if you will, and for one of my students, they changed every year and had different roommates, but my other student kept the same roommate all 4 years, and they were still, and I think will be lifelong friends after this. So we've had both mixes for roommate situations.
Any additional comment you'd like to make, Judy?
I was just going to add that both my daughters lived in the substance-free, I believe it was the Brown dormitory, and they both had a good experience there and felt very comfortable starting out on East Campus and then moving to West.
Great. Jim already talked about the fact that the first-year students all live on East Campus, and then we have this West Campus, and we also have this entity called Central Campus, which, as the name suggests, is in between. And there are questions about what it's like to live on Central Campus. Do I remember, Judy, correctly that you have that your daughter lived on Central?
My daughter, Christy, is living on Central Campus now. I believe through some sort of a number, when you go from freshman to sophomore, or actually it was from sophomore to junior year for Christina, she pulled kind of a high number. At first she wasn't happy about the idea of being on Central because it would require, you're not right on West Campus, and she would actually ride the bus a short distance. But she stayed with her roommate from sophomore year. They moved into Central Campus, and they made the best of that situation and actually have enjoyed the benefit of having more of an apartment than just two girls living in a dorm room. They have a kitchen, brought pots and pans. They decorated the walls very nicely, and they have some Duke-provided furniture, which was helpful. So, and then they still share a bedroom. So, but they've actually enjoyed living there.
So, for the parents who, prospective parents who are listening, what current parents might not fully realize, because this is really very new, is that in the last 2 years, the university has seriously re-envisioned how it uses Central Campus, and that's included a lot of substantive upgrades, building a restaurant there, study rooms. There's a whole building complex which has an exercise facility and a general store and a couple of buildings that are used for study and social spaces. This is temporary in the long run because in the long run we're going to continue to expand West Campus with new dormitories, but that's going to take some time. So we've really upgraded that. And an interesting fact is now students are disappointed, some students, that they can't live on Central. Oh, and another thing we did, by the way, is that Central used to have a reputation of being hard to get to. And we've completely changed the bus system, including the ability to just get on a computer or on a smartphone and find out where the next bus is because they're all GPS tracked. And that's helped a lot. Another thing that I'll just mention for prospective parents that current parents may not be fully aware of is that we are transitioning to a new housing system for students in the sophomore year beyond. And if there's time, I can talk about that. But we want to get to parent questions. And if you have questions about that new housing model and we don't get to it, again, feel free to email me at SNOWICKI, and I'll make sure we get that information out. But here's a question that I think is an important one. And, you know, at least two of you have had daughters who have gone to college. And I'll read this question verbatim. I am about to send my first child, a daughter, to college, and I admit that I am starting to go into panic mode, hyperventilating as I type. I would feel so much better if I knew campus and dorm safety is a top priority at Duke. Every college and university say that it is, but I want a parent's perspective. So I want parents' perspectives. Let me start with you, Judy. You've had two daughters here.
I've had two daughters here, and I can honestly say that we've never had any issue with safety. The students are very good about using their card, which they carry with them, to swipe to go into a dorm. So that limits the entry of any outside party. They wouldn't be able to get in, first of all. Plus, it's kind of a tight-knit community, so we really haven't had any occasion. I'm kind of sometimes a worryful parent, and maybe when my first daughter came, I felt I had to keep a pretty close contact just to know she had made it through the next night. But I can honestly say that we've really enjoyed, that really never comes to mind, any fear with my younger daughter at all.
Let me turn to you, Jim, because your daughter Rachel is about to graduate, and as a Pratt student, she's spent a lot of time in the engineering quad, which is, you know, not far away, but is, you know, not as close as some of the humanities and social sciences classrooms and facilities. So what's your experience with safety?
I've had similar experience coming from this little girl you were sending away, and I might have been that parent nervous to not even be able to type the words out and come in here. But after moving in and seeing what the environment was, you feel much better. Her freshman dorm, she was on the top floor, and you had a card to get in the building, but then you had a card to even get in the stairwell to get up to her room. So from the physical security, when she was in the dorm, I was, my fears at least were alleviated that it was reasonably safe. She is in the engineering, and there are late evenings and those kinds of things, but she's also pretty savvy, usually travels with someone who, when she's going out, if it's going to be after dark. And it is a safe environment, but one should always not invite anything that you wouldn't want to happen. So as single females, hopefully they will take precaution and do that. But I don't know that she's ever mentioned that she felt unsafe or in any kind of dangerous situation. And that's right here on campus. Now, they're not wandering off campus, and she's not going off campus alone. But I certainly have had no angst about the security while she's been here.
So, Carolyn, do you want to weigh in?
I do want to weigh in on
because,
that.
You know, we're concerned about all our children,
right.
not just our daughters.
Right. And even though I have a male child here, I would say just being from Durham, that I have been on campus and a lot, and I've been on campus whether or not it's at 1 o'clock in the morning or whether or not it's 9 o'clock at night. And on East Campus, I can say that, at East and West, I can say that there are emergency calls stations at like almost each block or every other block. So I have seen young women running at 12 o'clock at night, and I'm sure that they, I'm not advising that, but
I mean running for exercise.
Running for exercise, yes,
Yeah, okay.
and that's good, not running for anything else. So I think that that is pretty good, and I've been on East Campus where the freshman dorm is located, and because there are a lot of traffic that may come from non-students on East Campus, I think most of the kids still feel safe because, well, now they're expanding that East Campus, that wall, what they call the Duke Wall, and it is becoming safer. So I haven't encountered any safety issues or concerns over on campus.
Right. Safety is, of course, a concern, and this is the administrator and professor talking, and of course we all say that, but it is a priority. And Duke is a safe campus as compared to many campuses, but it's not something we take for granted. And we do training with our students to make sure they know what's responsible and how to avoid getting into trouble. And we spend a lot of time looking at where there could be security concerns and doing what we can to improve that, whether it's increasing the traffic of security patrols or increased lighting or you name it. Here's a question that is an interesting one. I'd be interested in hearing what you heard from your children. How's the food at Duke? Carolyn, why don't you start off with that? How is the food? You've got a son. They eat a lot.
Yeah, my son is bone thin, but he did get the greedy plan, whatever that means, and so evidently he loves it. But not only that, there are a variety of choices, and there are so many places, whether on campus or off campus, that they can eat and use their card, and that's one of the benefits of the meal plan here at Duke, that they can use their meal card. And recently, the students were able to now use their meal card at certain restaurants around the Durham area, whether that's Durham downtown or whether or not that's directly on by Duke campus, and receive a discount. So I think the meal plan is good. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and pretty much all time of the day and night they can go, pretty much.
How did Rachel and Brian like it, Jim?
It's mixed bag. One of them liked it and enjoyed it, who's a morning person and liked to get up to go to breakfast. The other one didn't see that time of day usually, and was sometimes struggling to get there when the normal cafeteria was open. So we had a mixed experience, but it also goes with your child. If your child is, I won't say adventuresome in a negative word, but if they enjoy eating and can eat many different things, then they'll do well. If they have a narrow focus, it might be a different story. But the dining service is very different now than when we first started. So there are many more choices now, and quite frankly, I've eaten in several institutions, and I think it's fabulous. So, I mean, from the great dining hall on West Campus to the Loop, to their number of places to eat, which I personally think the food is very good.
Yeah, and Judy, do you want to weigh in from your kids' perspectives?
I had lunch with my daughter here on campus today, and she was just stressing to me how at Duke there's so many options that she can use for her, using her food points. On a Friday night, if they decide they want to have steak and fries delivered, they just put it on their points. They use their points and then go on their way. But there are a variety of different eateries, as well as more classical dining hall type of venue.
I'll just add...
they've been very happy with the food.
Well, that's good. I actually think the food is pretty good, and we have been working on dining a lot because it's important to get it right, not just because we want the food to taste good, but we want to create venues that are places where people will gather and talk and meet other people. The dining on the first-year campus is very much a dining hall-focused dining, and it really does bring the whole class together. And then for sophomores and beyond, as they move into different parts of campuses, that's where they find these other eateries. Now, the first-year students can go to those other eateries, but they, for their first month or so, they tend to go to what we call the marketplace. Yeah. You swipe in, you pile food on your plate, and frankly, by the third month, they are happy to go home to mom's cooking. So, I want to change the subject a little bit with, here's a question that I think is very important, and it's to ask parents to talk about Greek life on campus, if any of your children have been involved in Greek life, or if not, as independents, how they've experienced that. Why don't you start that out, Jim?
Both my students were in the Greek system, and neither one of them came here thinking that they would be in the Greek system. It's something that I think just sort of happened. There was a like-minded group of young men that my son got involved with. He ended up, from not wanting anything to do with fraternities to being very active in the fraternity, and now he's on the national board of the fraternity. So he really got involved with it and owned it, and it was a wonderful aspect of his social life while he was here. My daughter joined a sorority. She didn't do it enthusiastically, but she was encouraged to do it. I would say it's not a major part of her week's activity, mainly because she's involved in so many different things. But the sororities do not live together as a unit, so there is not as much of an influence on that for the women. The guys do tend to group together and live in a common area. So it was more of a social aspect for my son than it had been for my daughter. But they were both Greek. But I would say that they know more non-Greek students than Greek. I think the ratio is something like a third of the students are Greek, and the other 2/3 are not.
That's about right.
My daughter's roommate is not in a sorority, and they have a lot of mutual friends, and so there's this mixing up. So I quite frankly don't know which ladies are in a sorority and which ones aren't. So it's not a large emphasis, and it doesn't shape them as much as it does at some schools.
Carolyn, did Derek have any interest in this?
No, my student didn't have any interest in joining a fraternity. That's not to say that it could not happen within the next 3 years, but I would speak on behalf of being independent. I think that, as Jim has already alluded to, is that, you know, my student has so many friends, whether they're Greek or non-Greek, that you kind of really don't know who's in a fraternity or not, but he has been more welcomed by everyone here on campus, and so he doesn't feel that there's a need necessarily to join a particular group to be a part of the friends at large. Mm-hmm. So he's gotten very involved into other things, and there's so many clubs and associations and so many other things that a student can do at Duke that you may or may not have to do a sorority or fraternity to feel like you have to fit in.
Right. We have actually, I think the last I heard, over 500 clubs.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of opportunities. Judy, do you have any comment on this?
My daughter, who is a current student, she decided that she would just go through the process for sorority, and in the end she did join one sorority. She likes it very much. But she also stresses to me that she has many friends who really are not part of the sorority.
Right.
So, and my older daughter, who has since graduated, but she lived in something called a selective house, and it was based on an interest in community service, and she enjoyed that living arrangement. It was co-ed. She enjoyed it very much and found people that she just felt very comfortable with.
So let me just follow up with what I was saying about both of my students who came with no intentions of going into the Greek system. And as she just commented, both of them sort of went through the rush process just to see what it was all about and to do a learning, and they both found that, yes, this is something maybe that I would like to do. So I'm using that to say that there are a number of things that these students are going to be involved with, and in fact we encourage them to do and to seek out these very different things and things that they may be potentially interested in to experience the full plate that Duke is presenting to them. So,
great. So we had a question about the new house model, which is actually not a question that current parents can address, because this is going to be a new aspect of our residential system starting next year. And I'll just mention this briefly, but I want to have this about parents talking to parents, so I won't go into detail. And again, feel free to email me at snowicki@duke.edu if you have questions. At this point, some fraternities and social selective groups like Brownstone or Round Table, which are co-ed and so forth, essentially live in houses where, as sophomores, they move into a space and they can stay there for the remainder of their time at Duke. The essential and actually very simple change that we're making starting in the fall of 12 is to have that the case for all students who will move into houses, not that are clubs or organizations where there's any kind of rush or recruitment, but just a place that once they're there, if they choose, if they like it, they can stay there, so that students don't have to move every year. They can just stay in this place, and they build a sense of loose community, which is a simple house system that many colleges and universities have very successfully. And again, I can comment on that more if anybody has specific questions. But I want to change subjects now to questions that our current parents might have an opinion on, and I think this is a very interesting one. Is there a value to having a bicycle on campus? Is it feasible to ride a bike around campus? Now, none of you may have students who bike.
I don't have a student that bike, but I see students bike all the time. And I think where Duke is located, that is very safe to bike, and I guess it's very feasible to bike. Because if you're on East Campus, you can bike down over to West Campus and still be safe and don't have to worry about a car or anything happening. And even going across the Whole Foods there, where it used to be a bike shop, it's now been extended, and now there's somewhere for you to put your bike, and there are places on campus as well. So I definitely think it's feasible for a student to have a bike.
Judy, did either of your kids bike?
No, both my girls have been on foot, and with Christy, even on Central Campus, she really finds the ride over. The buses are very available. She hasn't had any problem getting back over to West. And once you're on West, everything is really within a very nice distance, and it's very comfortable just walking. So I don't think they've searched that out for that reason.
Jim, bikes?
Well, I'm trying to keep my personal opinion down, but I would say I wouldn't want to have the bike that I have to lock it up and then have to figure out, and then that's the day it rains, so I can't get on the bus. But it really depends. I think the number of bikes that are here probably are for maybe the older students, probably the graduate students who aren't living on campus, and they use that as a way to get to campus, I would imagine. But the buses are extremely convenient from east to west, and they were reasonably convenient to Central, but I understand now that that's been improved, and so now they're very accessible. So with a little bit of strategic planning, you can't stay in the class after the professor's finished and linger, but when class is dismissed, there's a time built in so you can get to your next class. So I think a bike, it could be recreational if they want to do that weekend or things like that, but I think doing it daily might be a little bit more than I'd be willing to put up with. So that's just my opinion.
Well, I'll tell you what I think I'm hearing, which I think is true, is that Duke is a very walkable campus.
Yeah, it is.
So,
It
I mean,
is.
a lot of students don't bike because actually it's not that far to walk. Although it is a very bikeable campus, and in fact, one of the things we've been doing over the last few years is creating explicit bike lanes and bike paths for those students who do want to bike. And a lot of students do bike, but a lot of students figure, why have the bike? Because it's going to take me 5 minutes to walk from here to there.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Let's see. Here's a question that is a very parent question. I need to hear from all of you, right? There's 3 parts to this question. Well, I'm going to read the third part, right? Any tips on how to keep in touch with the personal money spending of a student when they go to their first year at Duke, right? So, there's a couple of questions here about personal finances, allowance, do you give them an allowance, how do you keep track of that? This is a very personal thing. It is a very parental thing. Carolyn, you're smiling.
Well, I know this is OCD, and I'm sorry, but my student's account is linked to my account. So every time he makes a purchase or spends something unnecessary, I see it. But I really, in all seriousness, I do think it's a communication between you and your child.
Absolutely.
And what you, if you give your child, example, $100 and say, this is what you're going to have for the month of April. But that child then knows their limit and what they can and what they cannot spend. I believe that if your child will need extra money, then they should call you or just email you and say, I just need some extra money. But it's really between the communication between the parent and the child. But if I see my child's, account getting a little low and that he is not spending his money on unnecessary things like just junk, I will put a little more money in his account. But I just think it's up to the parent.
Jim, you want to comment on allowances,
gotta keep your
spending
personal
money?
stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how much to... we don't have normal kids, and I don't think you have normal kids.
Nobody has normal kids.
Nobody has normal kids. There are some students I would have no problems giving them a credit card, and they would be completely responsible. And then I know there are other students that, with that credit card, it's an endless balance. So with flex points, you can sort of keep up because you get a flex account of how things are being spent. So if they're doing flex spending, then you can keep up with it. And I would submit that I'm trying to think how many other things that they're going out and needing to be buying except for food items, maybe some toiletries and things like that. I mean, clothes shopping and all of that maybe aside, but they can do that all through flex points, and the account will come to you, and you can see what their spending habits are, and use this as a teaching opportunity if they're not being as responsible as you think they should be. But they may surprise you. They may actually be very responsible, and that's something that you'll find out about them. But I think using the flex system is a way that they can get a little bit more independence and see how they're doing with expenses and keeping a budget if you're giving them a budget for the month. But you really have to do it individually based on what you know about your student and how they've responded to spending money to date.
The Duke Flex card, just so that prospective parents know, it essentially functions like a debit card. And it is a card that can be used at, the stores on campus. They can use this to buy food in eateries and beyond the meal plan and so forth.
Pay for their washing machine.
For the washing machine.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a Duke-specific debit card. Do you want to add anything about your experience, Judy, with...
Well, I would think that I could broaden the discussion a little to say that everything at Duke that parents need to do, like in an administrative fashion, I would like to strongly say it works like clockwork. I have never seen a school, the registrar, the Duke card, everything works for me. I can sit at my computer at home, and if I know my daughter is low on flex points, either she can add herself dollars to that account, or in the earlier years, I would do it for her. So it's a very nice system. You can see what's being spent. You have a total record of it. And you have very good support services here at Duke to make your parenting responsibilities a lot easier.
Right, and I would add that, it's, as Jim said, it's not clear what students really need to buy, right? Because the food plan and the residence plan and all that, maybe laundry is, a little different, but we try to make it as all-inclusive, and that's especially important for families whose students are receiving financial aid. We really think carefully about that and think about how to incorporate all of this in the packages that we provide for our students. A subset of this question, well, it's not a subset, but related to this question, a couple of parents have asked about cars. Can first-year students bring cars? And the answer is yes. But I think the bigger question is, do students need a car? I have an opinion. I'm interested in what the parents think. Judy, do you want to start that one?
That's an interesting one for me because my older daughter, she did not have a car. She never asked to have a car, and she rarely went off campus. Her world was here completely at the university. My younger daughter, she adventures a little occasionally to the mall, but she doesn't have her own car, but she does go with friends to, it's just a little wider horizon. So she will travel to the mall if she needs a certain pair of shoes, or go to the movies, or do some more community-based things. So I guess one would say that it does allow you to venture out a little more into the community, of course. And for probably most students, I think it's an advantage, but not a necessity.
Carolyn?
Yeah, I would agree with Judy. I think it is an advantage. My student did not bring his car his freshman year, and we thought that he was going to need his car, but everything was in such great vicinity that he didn't need his car. Matter of fact, and this may be a pat on the back for Duke, but he basically called me and said, Mom, I was talking to my advisor, and she stated that, I don't really need a car. It was just going to be just add on more expenses to things that we have to take care of throughout the semester. And I could appreciate that because it made him look at having his car on campus from a different perspective. But secondly, there are so many kids, other students that have cars, and people are more than willing to, if you need to,
together.
go to the grocery store that may not you know, that you may choose not to go to a certain grocery store, they're more than willing to just come together and say we can all ride together and go this place. So I really don't think a car is necessary. But if you want to use it to your advantage, you definitely can.
Yeah, I would say a car is not necessary, but then I'd have to also tell you that both my kids had cars. And I argued with them, though, if they had the car, then they're going to be the ones who always have to drive to go places and did those kinds of things. Well, as it turned out, they did do that, but they didn't do it begrudgingly because that was also an opportunity for them to help out a fellow student. And generally, they would be going out together anyway, so they would have to go, so it wasn't a lost trip. They both were involved in activities off campus, doing activities in the community, and having a car did facilitate that. I think my wife and I justified them having a car because it made the transportation coming back when they would come back home a little easier, because it always seemed like the schedule wasn't quite right to catch that ride, or they would have to be staying late. So I'm sure had they not had a car that they could have found that ride back home, and they would have gotten to the mall when they needed to. But it is a little bit more convenient, but you definitely do not need a car here. There are certainly enough students, and your student will know a number of students who have cars to where it's definitely not necessary to have a car.
It's true that a lot of Duke students bring a car because that's how they get to Duke and go home, and then it's parked all semester long because they don't really use it, you know. So, and I'll just add, for the sake of information, that recently Durham, the city of Durham, created a free bus line called the Bull City Connector that connects Duke with downtown Durham. And it's a fabulous connection because it takes students down to where the Performing Arts Center is, where shopping is in downtown. And downtown Durham has become an incredibly great place. As somebody who's lived here for 23 years, the last 5 or 6 years, it's been a really hot spot.
Right, and your Duke card gets you on that bus, so it's not like you're paying a bus fee. So
yeah, no, it's free for Duke students. And we also have we had a zip car system. Now we have We Cars, so you can actually just rent a car for an hour if you want that. Here's a question that was asked, and I'm just going to kind of, because we're running out of time. A parent asked, are majors limited in terms of how many students can be in a major? And I'll just say the answer is no. Parents may not know that. We do not restrict students. We don't say only 20 students can be in this major or whatever. So we open up our majors to everybody, and the numbers are driven by student interest. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I would say the only qualifier is that if you're changing in the end of your second semester, beginning of your junior year, from Trinity into engineering, you might be going a semester or two longer because of the requirements that are in that. So if that would be the only restriction. But
so did Rachel or Brian make that switch?
No, both of them applied to engineering and stayed in engineering. Yeah. But I would say that, I mean, that would be the limitation. It wouldn't be that the school wouldn't take you, is that you would have to fulfill the requirements
and
for
that's
the
because
major.
the engineering curriculum has certain requirements that you have to meet. Yeah, right. Let's see. Did any of your children do a pre-orientation program, like Project Wild or Project Build is another one, or Project Waves? Any of your children do that? All right, well, we can't...
Oh, yeah, both of mine did it.
Oh, they did?
And it was a fabulous experience. It allowed them to get to know some of their future students, and many of those students they would never take a class with, but they would be friends for the rest of the time. And my older student was so enthralled by it that he came back as a counselor in the program because he was so vested in the opportunity and what it meant for him that first week before school started.
Right. We have a series of pre-orientation programs. Not all students do it. Actually, I don't know the exact number, maybe 20% of our students do it. And one is associated with Habitat for Humanity, and they build a house, and There's one that takes them into, you know, the wild and they go camping in Western North Carolina. There's one that gets them into research labs. And if your student chooses to come to Duke, you will get abundant information about what those opportunities are in something we call our Blue Book, which is sent out to those students who have accepted Duke and gives you all that information. Another set of questions that we've gotten, and I'll just cut to the chase here, is, you know, how will I learn about, you know, moving my child into Duke? You know, when will I know how to do it? What's the day to do it? Again, if your child decides to come to Duke, you will get a very explicit document that we work very carefully on. It's sort of an extended checklist called the Blue Book. So you guys may remember the Blue Book. And it's like, it is a how to enter Duke. Do you guys have any comments on the Blue Book? If
there's a suggested list of what you need, and your student's probably going to double or triple that. They don't need to do that. What they've recommended are things that they need. And should they forget something, the university provides a bus that goes to the local Target,
right.
And so they can
During
go to the
orientation,
local Target during orientation and pick up those items that one may have forgotten or decided that they needed once that they've got here. So don't load the car down. The other thing is they give you this window to check in, and I think it's generally a 2-hour window. And the word to the wise, if you come halfway in between, you will wait less, and the only thing you're doing is just waiting to get up, because once your car arrives at the front of the dorm, the group of young men and women will descend on your car and take everything, and it'll be in your room in maybe a minute or two. So it's a very wonderful experience that it's quite surprising for new parents when they experience that, but it does happen. The waiting in line is not, I'm exaggerating that, but the transition from getting you from home into that room is so seamless that you'll be surprised how efficient they run that process.
Other comments on this? So I want to get to a very broad question that's been asked because, of course, the students who have been admitted to Duke are fabulous students and they've got a lot of good choices. So here's a question. For those of us who are thinking about other schools right now, why Duke? From the parents. Let's start with you, Judy.
Well, Duke has it all. I think you have academic excellence. You have a nice size of a university where there's enough contact with people that you've previously met. You feel part of the community, not too large, not too small. Wonderful sports teams, and something else that hasn't come up, but I think it's something very nice here at Duke, is that all students in their freshman year sign kind of an academic honor code. And every student signs their name to that pledge. And it also makes the community nicer because there's a standard that stealing or other types of misdemeanors are not tolerated by the community. And I just thought it was very nice that that value, that of honesty, which is a very important value for our students and ourselves to carry throughout our lives, is emphasized here at Duke.
Carolyn, what would you say? Why Duke? Why now?
You know, my student applied to 8 colleges, and I thought for sure he was going to go out of state. And I would say why Duke is just because there is some type of connection that is present among the campus. And whether or not that starts with the student, or whether or not that starts with the advisor, whether or not that starts with the RA, there is this sense of community and this sense of striving for excellence. And my student strive for excellence, and I think that it just kind of aligned with with his goals along with our goals. And I have to echo with Judy and just state that the honor code is so valuable here, and that was very important to us. And so Duke, it was just, you know it, you feel it once you get on campus. It's just the right place to be.
Yeah, it's to say it's got everything is probably not fair. It does not have a lot of the negative things that you might find in some of the more prestigious academic institutions. And that has to do with the honor code. It has to do with this sense of collegiality, this sense of helping each other go through this process. And that's rare in a school of this caliber, to have that collegial spirit and helping each other. And what it offered for my students was a number of things that they had never even tried before, and a safe environment that they could explore. It's got the academics. It's also got great sports. There are a number of other sports besides the couple of 2 or 3 obvious ones. I mean, there are a number of gifted athletes here. Mm-hmm. And as your student comes, they will probably get to know those athletes, but not be in that sport, but because those students are accessible. And you get to know a number of students who are very good in a number of different areas, and your student will bring those talents too. And so this community comes together and really builds on itself. One of mine wanted band. One of them wanted dance, and you wouldn't think at a prestigious academic institution that they'd get that, but yes, they also excel in those areas. There's a number of musical groups where if you do have a talented musician, you can come, and if you're not a music major, you can still have a high level of musicality and participate in those kinds of activities. So I would say it's small enough to where you have this sense of community, mm-hmm. but it has enough diversity so that you could get involved with things that you're interested in and that you would potentially excel in.
Great. All right, we're running out of time. I want to do a lightning round here.
Okay.
Very quickly, in the elevator moment, what is the one thing you would say to the parent of a prospective Duke student? Just one thing that you'd say to them that might be useful to them. Why don't you start, Judy? Putting my parents on the spot here.
Yeah. I think I'm not just quite sure how to answer this. The one thing that I'd like to tell, you can trust in this environment, and I think if you do make the choice for Duke, you won't be disappointed. Great.
Carolyn, what would you say?
I would just say that I would just say to build relationships with professors, with advisors, anyone, because they're here to help you and to answer any questions. They're more than willing. So I would just say build relationships with faculty as well as other parents.
Great. Jim.
Well, they stole my two, but there's so many things that I want you to know. Certainly have them be involved with their experience here. Mm-hmm. If they want to do some things, don't give the automatic no or why do you want to do that in a negative sense. Do it in a positive sense. Well, tell us why you want to do that. And let them expand their horizons and do that. Go to the Career Center. Go often and early and utilize the resources that Duke has available to your students. They've got to be a little bit more proactive than they were in high school. Duke's not going to spoon-feed them, but there are so many things to take advantage of that they really should be encouraged to go out and explore and see the number of things and participate in the number of things that they will have available to them.
Great. Listen, we're running out of time, and I'm sorry because this has been a lot of fun. I want to thank Jim and Caroline and Judy unscripted.
Unscripted.
You've done a great job, and I really appreciate your candor in talking about these issues from a parent's perspective. I want to thank the people who have sent in questions, and I want to apologize to those of you to whom who sent in questions that we just didn't have time to get to. We had a lot of questions. You can address your questions, if there are specific ones, to the undergrad admissions office. That would be undergrad-admissions@duke.edu. You should have gotten a information for parents packet, and there is a Duke University Parents Guide that will help you. And as I said, that should your student decide to come to Duke, you will get another round of information in our Blue Book and beyond, where we really help you know everything you need to know to integrate your student and bring them into this great community. And so with that, I want to say good evening, thanks for listening, and thanks again to our parents.